Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a seat.
Thank you.
Ms. Lee, good afternoon.
Hi.
How you feeling?
Good. How are you?
I'm okay. Thank you for asking. Would you please state your first name and spell your last name for the record?
Sure. My name is Angela Lee, and my last name is spelled L-E-E.
Ms. Lee, where do you live?
In Bayfield,
And how long have you lived around there?
all my life.
Will you tell the jury what your job is?
I work for the Postal Service, and I've been there 21 years as a carrier.
Are you familiar with a postal route that takes the postal worker near County Road 500?
Yes, I've been on that route for about almost 17 years.
Does that 17 years around that postal route
Yes.
give you a familiarity with the area in general, the
Yes.
Esposito area? Are you familiar with the locals, or in particular the year-round crew?
Yes,
Are people in that neighborhood and in Esposito in general shy around strangers?
yes. They have their own little ways up there, so everybody kind of keeps to themselves or talks to each other up there.
So shy towards outsiders.
Yes.
How about police?
Yeah, I would say they're shy towards them too.
In 2012, did you deliver to everyone who lives at Esposito Lake?
Yes,
And did you deliver all up and down County Road 500 and the various roads that come off of it?
yes,
Are you able to picture the numbers to every address up around Esposito?
yes,
And are you able to picture, if not all, most of the full-time residents that live
Yes.
up there now? And would you have been able to do that in 2012?
yes,
And outsiders stick out. Is that fair to say?
yes,
Then as well as now, right?
right.
And Ms. Lee, I think it's probably obvious to everyone by your demeanor, but is it fair to say that you're a private person?
Yes, pretty much. A little shy.
Right. I will try to make this quick. Do you have any interest in being involved in this?
No,
And is it uncomfortable to speak in public?
a little.
What you're doing here, do you believe it is the right thing to do to tell the limited information you have?
Yes, yes.
And do you have any interest in the outcome of this trial aside from a general hope that the right thing happens?
Just that the right thing happens.
When you spoke with law enforcement back in 2012, was it your goal to try to help find Dylan Redwine?
Yes,
And did you ever feel like words were being put in your mouth?
no,
Did you ever feel like you were being accused of doing something wrong?
no,
How about feel like it was being suggested that you had involvement in what was going on with Dylan's disappearance that didn't apply to you?
well, at one point, one of the detectives asked me, where were you when Dylan went missing? And what time were you up here delivering mail? And that kind of made me feel like, what?
So you were asked a question in a way that caused you to think that you were being asked whether you had something to do with his disappearance?
Objection. I'm going to really request that counsel not ask leading questions. I've made this objection multiple times. This is his witness.
This is your witness, Mr. Grant, and so you can stop.
Ms. Lee,
Uh-huh.
when you had that feeling that you were just describing, that you were it was being suggested that maybe you had something to do with it, was that after you talked about after you'd had several conversations with them about your familiarity with the area?
When was that in relation to? That's how you ask that question without leading, okay? When was that in relation to? And then you're not leading the witness.
Okay.
You understood it that way.
That was, 2 or 3 months later down the road.
Okay. At that point, when the question was asked that you interpreted that way, had you had several other conversations with them?
With the detectives, yes.
So it was sort of well into things, or months into things? Is that what you just said?
Actually, these are all leading questions. They are.
You're right. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to help out a shy witness. I beg your pardon.
And the speeches from counsel are inappropriate, Judge. All I'm asking is that he follows the rules of evidence.
Go ahead, Mr. Moran.
Ms. Lee, did you ever see Mark Redwine and Dylan Redwine while you were delivering mail?
Yes.
And what did you see them doing?
They were out in the yard, and a couple times I would see them like playing ball, and I'm not really sure what all they were doing, but they were out in the yard doing different stuff.
And how many times would you say you saw them out there?
Just here and there. Like, maybe once a week for a little while, and then not see them at all, and then later, a few months later, see them.
And how far is the mailbox from the front door at Mark's place, if you had to guess?
Not very far from where I am to a little bit further than the door.
Okay. So pretty easy to see people, or?
Yeah.
Would Mark say hi when you dropped off the mail?
Yeah. If he was outside, he would always say hi or wave or something.
And did you ever get close enough to get a look at what Dylan Redwine looked like?
Yes, I saw what he looked like.
And in observing what he looked like, were you able to tell what color his hair was?
Blonde.
About how tall he was?
Pretty much, yeah.
Roughly his age and build?
Yeah.
And it was obviously that he was a boy?
Yes.
Permission to approach?
Yes.
Ms. Lee, would you mind flipping through those and let me know when you have had a sufficient chance to review them?
I have.
And have you seen each of these images before?
Yes.
Even the last one, the one in the airport?
Yes. I saw that, I think, for the first time in the paper, or in the Durango Herald, I think.
Are these all images that are fair and accurate representations of images that you have seen in the past?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to move to admit these.
Well, one, I need to know the numbers, and two, I'm not quite sure that fair and accurate representations of images you've seen in the past. I don't know where you're going with this, Mr. Johnson.
There's no foundation, Judge.
Okay.
What? So we'll table 1255 for the moment, and pages 1145 through 1147. If you look at those, and I know we speak a different language in here, but at the bottom right, you'll see some numbers. And the first one I want to talk with you about is 1145.
Okay.
Can you tell the jury how you became, or how this picture was shown to you? Look, I'm sorry, let me ask it this way. You've seen this picture before, as you testified, right?
Right.
And was it shown to you by an investigator, Goldbright?
Yes.
And when she showed you this picture, was she asking you if this is a child you had seen?
Yes,
And when she showed you this picture, was it this exact picture?
I think so.
And it was the subject of a conversation that you had with Investigator Goldbright?
Yes,
And this is a fair and accurate representation of that exact same picture Investigator Goldbright showed you?
yes.
Move to admit 1145.
Mr. Johnson?
May I applaud you on 1145 and 1146, please?
Well, 1145 for sure. Do you care about 46? They're the same process?
Let's
Okay.
get it done.
Go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, Ms. Lee.
Hi.
Thank
Good
you for being
afternoon.
here. Have you testified you've seen 1145 and 1146 before?
Yes,
Are these the pictures that you positively identified as the children you saw on November 19th of
Objection.
2012?
He's gone right into cross-examination. This is not,
Isn't this cross, Mr. Johnson?
I'm asking her what these pictures are, Judge. She was just asked about them. If
She's
they
just-
are what I think they are, I believe that I will have no objection to admitting them. He referenced that the detective showed them to her. I just want to ask her if those are the same pictures she positively identified.
Permission to
You can ask that on cross. Do you have any other voir dire?
No, I don't. I would stipulate to their admission, Judge.
All right. They're both admitted.
There's one additional one. Do you have strong feelings on 1147?
No, I would agree to that as well.
Okay, it's admitted.
Permission to publish 1145?
Yes.
I think that's, can we get input one?
Yes.
Ms. Lee, is this the same 1145 that you have in front of you?
yes.
And is there something that you are comfortable saying with 100% certainty about this child?
Yes, that isn't the boy that I saw walking.
Okay. So
Um,
I want to orient the jury a little bit to what that means.
okay.
So the boy walking, who's the boy walking and what day are you talking about?
Okay. The day that Dylan went missing, the following day is when I found out that he was missing. So the day he went missing, I was delivering mail, and two boys walked, they were kind of walking down in a bar ditch in front of a house, and I kind of glanced at the boys, and one kind of reminded me of Dylan, and but I wasn't really paying that much attention because I was trying to do the mail and get everything done, and so I just kept on going.
And then that information became known to law enforcement,
Yes, not by me, but yes,
but then law enforcement followed up with you and they talked to you about what you'd seen.
yes,
And you relayed to them accurately that you thought you'd seen Mark's child.
the boy kind of reminded me of Dylan, but I couldn't be, for sure, because I just barely glanced at him.
Sure. Did I understand that right, that they walked in front of the mail truck?
Well, they walked I'm on the right-hand side of the car, so they walked on the other side and up and around the bar ditch.
So the side closest to the window of your vehicle or the window you're driving at?
Not the window I'm driving at, the other side.
What was the length of time that they were walking in front of the mail truck?
Not very long, just took a second for them to walk across, and I was already at the box site before they even got across.
And as they passed, what did you think to yourself?
I really didn't think that much of it. I just kind of took notice that, it kind of reminded me of him and
Reminded you of Mark?
of Dylan, yeah.
But was there one thing about the children who walked in front of you that really stood out, particularly their gender?
Well, I knew they were both boys. I mean, I have boys and I have grandsons. And, I even, the house that I was at, the man even saw the boys walking across too. And later, I talked to him about it, and he said, we kind of argued about, well, no, this one was taller than this one,
If I could publish 1146, Ms. Lee, you're familiar with this one as well, right?
Yes.
And there's one thing, is there something that you're comfortable saying with 100% certainty about this child?
She's a girl.
And is this one of the children that walked in front of your postal service vehicle?
No, I saw two boys.
So you mentioned that you've raised boys.
Yes.
You know what, one more picture before we move on to that. 1147, please. That's the one we got. Do you see that this child in this image is wearing a backpack? Can you see the backpack straps?
Yes.
And those backpack straps look like a pair of Vans sneakers?
Yes.
And that sort of stands out. Did any of the children you saw pass your vehicle have a backpack that looked like that?
Not that I can remember, no. I think they were dark backpacks. And I think I would have remembered a checkered.
So, as I was mentioning, you said you've raised boys. How many?
I have, I have two sons, and then I had all their friends. And then I have two little grandsons.
The picture of the little girl that I showed, would you characterize that little girl as a tomboy?
Yes,
The first one or the second one?
second one.
Okay. But you're comfortable that what you saw was not a tomboy, it was a boy?
It was a boy.
Are you able to tell the difference between a 13-year-old, a 14-year-old boy and a 10-year-old girl?
Yes.
Were the boys you saw older than the two children I just showed you pictures of?
No, they were about around the same age.
Have you spoken to law enforcement more times than you can count about what you saw in November 2012?
Yes.
Have you spoken with the Federal Bureau of Investigation,
Yes.
the La Plata County Sheriff's Office?
Not so much.
Investigator Goldbright, Investigator Cowering, Investigator Gabbard, have
Yeah.
you spoken with all of them?
Mhm.
How about Investigator Patterson?
No.
How about the prosecutor?
No.
You haven't spoken with this gentleman here?
Yes, like, I can't remember, 4 or 5 months ago.
When you first started speaking with law enforcement in this case, is it fair to say that you were happy to help?
Yes.
And did that begin to wear thin at some point?
Yes.
Did you feel heard when you were at the DA's office and you were saying you saw boys?
Did I feel what?
Heard.
Yes.
Did you ever feel at some point like people didn't want to hear that you saw boys?
Objection, asked and answered. He got his answer.
There's a lot of other folks, and I know the answer to this. I'm just concerned about nerves here.
Hold on, I'll let you ask the question once or twice, but that'll be pretty much it. So you can ask the question again and you can answer it.
Have you repeated, as you've been asked about this, that you saw boys?
Yes, Tanya, the detective, I told her over and over and over that I saw two boys walking, and there was even, the man that owned the house, that he saw the same two boys I did. We discussed that. And she went on and on and on. Are you sure you didn't see a boy and a girl? And I said, no, these were two boys. And she said, are you positive you didn't see a boy and a girl? Because this girl tucked her hair in her hat, and I remember her telling me she can look just like a boy. And I said, no. She said, well, let me show you some pictures. And after arguing about it over and over and over, I was just done, and I said, okay, that's who I saw then.
Before you had that moment where you just said, okay,
Uh-huh.
and agreed with what they wanted to hear,
Yeah.
was that after? Did that conversation happen after you had been asked where you were when Dylan disappeared?
Yes.
And what were you doing on the 19th?
I was working up at Vicedo, delivering mail.
So, and to be more specific, November 19th, 2012, you remember you were delivering mail that day?
Yes.
And everybody got their mail that day?
Yes.
Did it seem, or is it pretty easy to verify if you were doing your job on the 19th?
Yes.
Did you find it frustrating that someone would question what you were doing that day, given that it was easy to verify?
Yes.
Did you take offense to that?
A little. But I think I had just had enough. I saw two boys, and she, Tanya insisted I saw a boy and a girl, and I just finally said, okay.
Were you told you were wrong?
Yeah, that I could be wrong about them, yeah. That because the girl tucked her hair in a hat. But I know boys, and I have a daughter too.
Did you start to question yourself?
No.
But suffice to say, you just didn't want to be around these questioners anymore.
Right. But, you know,
There's no
Hold
question
on
in front of you.
Okay.
You have to wait for a
Sorry.
question.
okay, sorry.
This is a strange room. Do you recall someone asking you, do you think I know more, or do you think you know more than I do?
Yes. Tanya.
Did you?
Well, she told me that she was a detective and that she knew a lot more than I did. And I said, well, I know that. I know that, but I'm just trying to help. And she said, yeah, I'm the one that knows everything, but if she knew everything, then why did she keep asking me everything?
This I can help with because I have some documents from back then if I need to refresh your recollection. But do you remember that you spoke with Tanya Goldbright on March 4th, 2013?
I spoke with her so much I don't remember the date.
Okay.
Yeah,
How about, do you remember speaking with her on March 6th, 2013?
I probably did. I don't remember
Do you remember speaking with
conversations or anything, but
her on March 7th, 2013?
probably.
How about on a second occasion on March 7th, 2013, when you and your daughter went to the sheriff's office? Do you remember that day?
Yeah, I remember that day.
And then after you went to the sheriff's office, did Tanya Goldbright come to your work?
She said that she came back by my work, but see, I don't really remember, but I'm sure she did.
And then, if that happened, and you're sure she did, or at any rate, on that day, did Tanya Goldbright also come to your house?
Yes.
Did it ever feel intrusive? Or I can ask it a different way. Was it rude or scary? Was any of that feeling?
No.
Experience?
No. She was, I was just trying to help, so I was willing to do whatever, answer anything I could to try to help.
Ms. Lee, please forgive me. These are unpleasant questions to ask. But did you say something to Tanya Goldbright about the picture she showed you that you regret?
Yes, but I didn't think that it was going to amount to anything if I said it was a boy or girl, because I was done trying to tell her that I'd seen two boys in the first place.
When you finally just said yes, did you act in a way that would have made someone watching you think you were relieved?
Yes, I was very relieved.
Relieved to just have this behind you?
Yep.
And did you say that one of the kids in the photograph was who you saw?
No. Or I don't remember saying that.
If you did say that, why would you have said that?
Objection. It's been asked and answered, I believe.
When they were asking you about these pictures, were you expressing that you were confident to them?
I think they took it as I was confident in it. I just wanted to kind of have it be over. Well, sometimes I'd get like 6 or 7 calls a day, and I was just kind of tired of trying to. It wasn't just about Dylan, but about the pictures here.
Let me talk to you about that a little bit.
Okay.
Do you remember in approximately March 6th or so of 2013 that you had mentioned how Dr. Phil had almost cost you your job?
Yes.
And why did the Dr. Phil footage of you make you worried about your job?
Because my boss told me that anyone with the Postal Service should not be on that show, and it could cause problems. So I asked the Dr. Phil people that I was talking to, you're not going to put me on the show? And they said, no, we are not going to put you on there. And they did anyway.
So can I ask what this is about? What's this got to do with the investigation or anything?
Yeah, approach.
Yeah.
This is
I don't understand it. Yeah, I don't know where you're going. Go ahead, Ms. Marine.
On March 7th, 2013, do you remember saying that the boy with the blonde hair had on a backpack?
Yes,
And was it a satchel or a backpack?
backpack.
What color was the hair of the boy that you thought was Dylan?
Blonde.
What top was he wearing? Do you remember?
No.
Whose house were they near?
Do I say the address or the name?
The name.
Jim
What-
Adcock's house.
Nope.
Oh, sorry.
Never mind.
Also near Mr. Redwine's house.
I'm sorry, what?
Were you also fairly near Mr. Redwine's house?
Quite a ways away,
A couple blocks?
couple miles.
Do you remember later that March getting another phone call from Tanya Goldbright?
Not, I can't remember.
Was there ever any point where you expressed to Investigator Goldbright that you were trying to back away?
No, just, no, because I was trying to help any way I could, but, just after like 3 months, and then I tried to back away, yeah.
And did you at some point feel like you had to tell law enforcement that I don't really want to be a part of this anymore?
Well, it was kind of like telling them because of the pictures. I said, okay, but yeah, if that's what you think I've seen, yes.
What does it mean to a postal worker to know someone from the box?
They're just a customer. I mean, a nice customer. We say hi to everybody and deliver their mail.
Was Mr. Redwine somebody that you knew much beyond the box?
No.
At some point, did you have conversations with Mr. Redwine after the disappearance of Dylan?
Just when I put the mail in his box, I'd say everything going okay, or, just small talk.
Have you ever had any reason to cover for him?
No.
Ms. Lee, do you remember that on November 20th, that you got a phone call from Investigator Cowling?
November
Yes.
20th of what
Sure.
year, please?
2012, pardon
Yes,
me.
sir.
I'm not sure why he's impeaching the witness, but this is his direct exam, and he should be asking her questions.
Well, he can ask questions directing her to a date, which I think is okay. And a phone call.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
And so that was, what was the day of your first interaction with police?
The day, after Dylan went missing.
And would you disagree if I said that was November 20th, 2012, that you spoke to police?
No, I agree.
If you don't, I can show you your
No.
report to refresh your recollection. That sounds right?
Yes.
And where were you when you got that phone call?
I was still at work, yeah. I was at work.
And did you tell Investigator Cowling what you had seen the day before?
Yes.
Do you remember telling Investigator Cowling that Dylan Redwine was wearing a black backpack?
Yes.
Leading questions, Judge. This is I don't know how many times I made this objection, but counsel continues to put forth information to the witness, his own witness, to get the answers that he wants.
This really is setting up impeachment, but I'm happy to.
Well,
It's not a thing, Judge.
I don't even know how to respond is why I'm silent, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you.
Okay? I mean, I'm having trouble responding. Would you please just do things right? And I know that's not a very good legal order, but stop leading.
At the point when you described that backpack, how many flyers and pictures of Dylan Redwine had you seen?
None.
Was Investigator Cowing attentive when you spoke with him?
Yes, he called me and, he asked me if I knew anything, and I said, no, I don't really know anything. I saw a couple of boys walking yesterday, but now I'm not saying that was Dylan.
When you spoke with Investigator Cowing, were you telling him the truth?
Yes.
And was there anything at the time to suggest to you that he was not listening to what you said?
No, it was a short and brief talk on the phone, and then Tanya came straight to my house and with another detective.
So did you tell, I'm happy to approach on this. I prefer to clear this than draw further ire from the court.
Why don't you come up and tell us what you're trying to do? Go ahead.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
what you said to Investigator Cowing was that you were absolutely sure that you saw Dylan Redwine.
No, that is so not true.
Okay.
I didn't call
Well,
him, he called me.
That's all I was meaning to ask with that question.
Okay.
And the phone number that Investigator Cowing reached you at, would you agree that that's 769?
No, I don't want that on the record. Why is?
You're right. Thank you
Okay.
for catching that. Thank you.
That's why I didn't want the other name in either.
Do you remember, in speaking with Investigator Cowing, that you said that the boys that walked in front of your vehicle looked at you?
I might have said that, yeah.
And it's true that you looked at the boys?
I glanced at him, yeah. Just for a second, I was trying to work.
And when Investigator Cowing says that you had to wait for them to pass in front of your vehicle, is that right?
They were kind of like in the bar ditch, so it only took a second for them to walk this way while I went this way.
And do you what's your take on Investigator Cowing saying that you thought to yourself, oh, there's Mark's son? Is that true?
No, I said, he kind of reminded me of Mark's son.
Do you recall saying to Investigator Cowing that you were positive?
Objection, Judge.
No, I did not
Hold
say
on,
that.
hold on.
You know what? I
Objection, you have-
withdraw my objection. Actually, the problem is this has been asked and answered, but if she's going to answer it the same
I don't know how much further you can go.
There were
Aren't we just going over the same thing over and over?
there were a couple of ways that Investigator Cowing reports that was provided to him, and I'm just setting up the impeachment that I want to ask him the words that were used that are in his report.
You can go through each and every one, I guess. How many are we looking at?
One more.
All right.
Did you tell Investigator Cowing on November 20th, 2012, that you were absolutely sure you'd seen Dylan Redwine?
No.
That did ask. That's already been asked.
All right. Do you remember meeting Mr. Redwine at the box in 2013 and observing his demeanor?
Objection of relevance.
Mr. Moran?
The prosecution has repeatedly sought to assert that he didn't really care.
All right. I think he,
Um,
hold on. I haven't ruled yet.
okay.
Okay? And I know you can't see me,
Okay.
but I can see you through the
Okay.
camera. Could you set that up a little better, Mr. Moran? And
Unfortunately, I've oriented it around something Your Honor has taken exception with me asking about. In the spring of 2013, do you remember seeing Mr. Redwine in his yard, at his mailbox, or in any other way interacting with him?
Yes, I remember seeing him.
And did you speak with him at any point that spring?
Here and there.
Do you remember how he seemed, what his mood was? Did you notice anything about that?
He seemed upset. His mood, I don't know, I wasn't really around him too much, just saw him at the mailbox for a few minutes here or there, you know. But he seemed like he was upset.
Ms. Lee, in the many years that you've been driving for the Postal Service up there, have you observed bad driving?
Objection of relevance.
hold on. There's an objection. And if you're trying to establish that something happened accident-wise, you've got no basis for that. I mean, it could have happened, but she doesn't know anything about anything. So I agree with relevance.
Ms. Lee, is there anything that would have been interfering with your ability to observe clearly on November 19th, 2012?
No. Nothing, I can think of anything.
Thank you. I think the prosecutor will have some questions for you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Lee.
Hi.
I understand you've been talked to a lot, so I'm going to just walk slowly through some things with you, okay?
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you some questions that the defense counsel asked you, and I'm going to ask you several that he didn't, okay?
Okay.
So let's start overall. Let me just ask you, have you maintained throughout the entirety of this case that you are never more than 60 or 70% sure that it was Dylan that you saw?
For sure it's no more than that, and I wouldn't even say that much, really. Maybe 50, maybe 60.
Okay. This is the percentage you'd put on the short time you saw the two boys that day,
Yes,
whether one of them was Dylan.
right,
Okay. And you explained that back in November of 2012, right?
right,
And you explained that again in March of 2013, right?
yes,
March 6th. And then even in October 19th of 2020, you explained that very same thing, right?
yeah.
Okay.
I was never sure, ever.
Okay. Let's go through some more of the details. So I think you explained this, but it was never one child that you saw. It was two children that you saw.
2 boys.
So if it was Dylan on that 50 or 60% chance, Dylan would have been with another child when you saw him.
Yes,
And it was about 2 p.m. when you reported seeing the two children, correct?
probably around that time.
Okay.
1:32, I don't remember.
1:30 to 2?
Yeah,
And was that the only time that day that you saw two kids walking like this?
yes,
You mentioned that you didn't report it yourself because you yourself were unsure.
exactly. I would have never called and said a word because I wasn't sure.
Okay. But instead you were talking about it at work and a coworker overheard you?
Yes.
And that,
called.
was that Jessie Basgard?
Yes, she called.
And she overheard you and called and told law enforcement, and then that's why law enforcement called you?
And that's how I got in this.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, you're almost done with this.
Okay.
But you didn't see Dylan very often over the months before he disappeared. Am I right about that?
Right, just here and there.
Okay. And I think what you had previously said was Mark wasn't home a lot, but you knew by his mail when he was.
Yes,
And then I think you also said it had been about 2 or 3 months dating back to the summer when you last saw Dylan at that home.
I can't remember now.
That's okay. On March 4th of 2013, you talked to Tanya Goldbright, and I think you said it was around August or September of 2012. Does that sound right?
Probably. I've talked to her a lot back
Okay.
then.
So let's start to talk about the contacts you have with law enforcement, okay?
Okay.
So you had reported all along and still today that it was 2 kids, not 1.
Right. There
And
were 2 boys.
Okay. 2 boys.
Mhm.
And early on, were there efforts to find out who the other boy was?
Yes.
So were you showed, for example, on November 23rd of 2012, Facebook pictures of all of Dylan's friends?
Yes.
And the point of this was so that maybe you could say there's the other kid with Dylan, right?
Yes.
And then they could talk and confirm that Dylan had still been walking around that day.
Right.
But when you did that, you were unable to identify any of those second children as being Dylan.
Right. And my daughter, she tried to see if she knew any of them, and she didn't either.
Okay. So you also were made aware, so this was the early phase of the investigation, but law enforcement was checking. They were taking your information just in case and trying really hard to see if it was Dylan, right?
Yeah.
And they had checked with every kid that knew Dylan and knew that none had saw Dylan at some point, right?
Right.
And then you didn't see any of those kids in those pictures either.
No.
Now, the kids that you saw, that was a brief look because you were busy and you were working and they were walking across the street, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you mentioned you had 1,200 families on your route and you don't know everyone on the route necessarily.
Right.
And with that original early reports, you said it looked like 2 boys, right?
Yeah.
You said one had blonde hair like Dylan and one had dark hair, right?
Yeah. I think I remember the other was dark, but it's been so long ago.
Sure. And you said they had their hoodies up, right?
Yes. As far as I can remember.
And you said 40% sure that they had backpacks.
Yeah. See, it's been so long, but I'm sure if I said it back then that they did.
Okay. And I think you described that they were not exactly side by side, but they were 4 feet apart, like kind of staggered apart. Is that
I
right?
remember that.
Okay.
Mhm.
And they were heading north on 501 by the Vallecito Market, right?
Right.
And I think you already testified that's a couple miles from Dylan's house.
Yes.
So that you saw them,
Mhm.
You waited for them to pass, and then you went on and continued delivering mail.
Right.
And when you looked at them, they looked at you, so you knew that they saw you as well.
Mhm.
We
And
need yes or no's, okay?
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yes or no?
Okay.
yes.
Yes.
And then you didn't have any kind of conversation or waving, but you had kind of seen that you saw them, they saw you, they crossed, and you kept going.
Yes.
Okay. We talked about the focus on Facebook for the other kids. After you knew that you couldn't identify the second child that had been with Dylan and that police had talked to all of Dylan's friends, then did the investigation shift where you started to look at who could possibly be different kids?
No, I never. Wait, can you repeat that?
Yeah, my question might not have been a good question. So we talked about how early on you were looking for the second kid that was with Dylan, right?
Yes.
And when you realized that none of these pictures of any of his friends in the area were that kid, and law enforcement had talked to all those kids, they hadn't seen him, then did it change to possibly these are two other kids?
Well, I thought that from the beginning. I didn't know if that was him. It just, like I said, I wasn't 100% sure. I saw two boys,
Okay.
and one kind of reminded me of Dylan, but I never said that was him, and I wouldn't even called in the first place.
Okay. And so did you start to look at yearbooks with investigators just to see if you could identify the kids that you did see?
Yes.
And as you looked through the yearbooks, were you unable to find the kids in the yearbooks either?
Right.
All right. Then did police eventually show you pictures of two kids that had seen you at the same date, time, and place?
Objection as to the form of that question.
I think you threw some stuff in there that I don't think she may or may not know, but that came,
Well, can I respond, Judge?
yeah, please.
I would prefer that be done at the bench.
All right, come on up. Go ahead.
Thank you. So, Ms. Lee, you were eventually showed pictures of two specific children, right?
Yes.
And were you made aware by Investigator Goldbright at some point in time that there was a reason that she was showing you these two pictures?
She just said at the time,
Objection.
Hold on.
The-
I think that I think you can get by with a yes or no answer, and then the rest of it has to come through a different witness.
Okay, sure.
So can you answer yes or no without explaining it?
Okay, yes,
They weren't just two random children. There was a reason that she had explained, and this is a yes or no question, but there was a reason she had explained why it was these two particular children that she was showing you pictures of, right?
I didn't hear. Did you say something?
no, I was thinking about it.
Oh, no, that's fine. I'm sorry. I thought maybe you
Okay.
nodded your head.
That's a tricky question, but okay, yes.
I don't mean it to be a tricky question. It's just that I can't have you explain it because it's in the
Okay.
rules of evidence. So,
Okay.
So those photos of the two children that you saw, was one of those children Morgan Crawford?
Yes.
Okay. And he had.
Well, hold on. What's your objection?
Foundation.
Okay.
I think you can ask it differently.
Sure, sure. Did you know Morgan Crawford?
Just as a kid that I would deliver the family packages and mail to.
All right. When you talked to Tanya Goldbright on March 7th of 2013, did you explain to her that Morgan Crawford was actually a kid you'd mistaken for Dylan before?
I don't remember that.
Would it refresh your memory to see a copy of the report?
You can show it to me again, yeah?
Sure.
Sure.
Just a moment, Your Honor. I have page 370 of discovery for counsel reference. And this is going to be a report based on an interview on March 7th of 2013. May I approach?
You may.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Okay.
So, Ms. Lee, does that help refresh your memory?
Yes.
Okay. And is it accurate to say that you'd mistaken Morgan for Dylan before this occasion?
I don't think that was the question we were refreshing on.
It was the question he's refreshing on.
You know, I don't remember. I mean, I saw that right now.
It's only if you if that makes you remember. If you don't remember, you don't remember.
I don't remember
All right.
That's okay.
ever saying that.
Okay. But regardless of saying it or not saying it,
Uh-huh.
do you remember both Morgan and Dylan living in the area?
Yeah.
And would you agree with me they look kind of similar?
Yes.
So we're talking about a situation with a hood up,
Mhm.
walking briefly, right? But and I'm going to come back to this. I'm not going to force upon you whether it was two boys or not. I think you've been clear. You think it was two boys, right? But with regard to Morgan Crawford, did you feel pretty comfortable that was Morgan Crawford, or that could have been Morgan Crawford based on how he looks compared to Dylan?
With their hoodies on? No. They could have, because like I said, I just glanced at them.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely two boys, no, without a doubt.
Right. Understand. But in terms of the boy that you thought looked like Dylan, do you recall telling investigators you thought that could be Morgan Crawford?
I don't remember ever saying that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you recall saying that you'd mistaken them for each other before?
No, that's what I don't remember.
Okay, so the mistaken before part you don't remember.
Right.
But do you remember telling them that that could have been Morgan Crawford that you saw that day walk?
I could have said that.
Okay. You have a couple exhibits, may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes. With regard to 11:45.
Dylan had blonde hair like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's about the same size as Dylan back then?
Yeah.
Objection is to foundation. They're different ages, they're just,
Well,
I don't understand the objection, Your Honor.
I don't either. It's an exhibit that you got in, and this is the same one that you've identified before as Morgan, and I forgot the last name.
Morgan Crawford, Your Honor.
Okay, but it is the same person. Or
Yes,
same-
Your Honor.
Okay, then it's overruled.
Okay. So that picture right there, he's about the same size, same hair, et cetera.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right. So when you say 50 to 60% sure in the first place that it was Dylan,
Mhm.
and then if Morgan's someone who was also in the area and with a hood up and walking, that's why you said it could have been Morgan.
Whenever, was this supposed to be a yes or no, or?
No, you can explain this one, I think.
Okay, when I first saw the two boys walking, I didn't think, oh, there's Morgan. I thought, when I first saw him, when I glanced at him, I first thought, well, that reminded me of Dylan, not
Right.
Morgan.
I understand. But let me ask you specifically about March 7th, and let me go into a little more detail about that. So with regard to March 7th, were you shown 11:45 and 11:46, those pictures?
Yes,
Okay. And do you recall that you positively identified those as the two children that you saw walking on the road?
yes, and I told you why.
Right. I understand. And then it wasn't just Tanya Goldbright there that day, but it was also another investigator,
Yeah,
Brandon.
Tom.
I think Brandon Dyer. Does that sound right?
Oh, yeah, actually, yeah.
Okay. And you explained to them that you felt relieved and you were comfortable that that's who these kids were.
Yep.
And then this morning, did you also look at these very same pictures?
Hold on, we didn't get the answer to that last. Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's what. Okay, we're good.
Yes.
We're good.
Okay. And thinking they might be exhibits in the case and just preparing you for possible testimony, did you meet with Investigator Heidel about those two pictures?
Yeah, he showed them to me this morning.
Okay. And this morning you agreed with him as well that those were the two pictures you had positively ID'd?
This morning I told him that was the two pictures that Tanya gave me, yeah.
Okay. And you reviewed your report, we provided you that just to make sure that it was accurate? And
Well,
you,
he just showed it to me and he said for me to look it over, and I did.
right. Okay. You didn't note anything was inaccurate in there?
No, I didn't talk to him. I just looked at everything and that was it.
I see. Did you talk to Mr. Moran after that?
No.
And I want to ask you about,
objection to any further inquiry along those lines.
Well, we'll see if there's any further inquiry.
there's none, I'm just not privy to any reports, so that's why I'm asking.
Well,
Nor am I as investigator.
Well, calm down. You guys aren't. Sometimes you're entitled to reports from the defense is entitled to them, and sometimes not. So just both of you calm down. You're not going there anymore. Ask your next question.
Yes, Your Honor. Let me ask you about a little bit more about the area. So you said it would have been 1:30 or 2 p.m. when you saw the two boys,
Yes.
and that would have been a couple miles from Mark Redwine's home, very close to the market.
Yes. It would have been on County Road 501 and Mark's house was on 500.
Okay. And that's a market, that's a store that would have been open at the time, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it would have had clerks and customers, things like that at the store?
Yeah.
And then it's an area because of the towers in Vallecito where one would get phone service as well.
Now, what, you do get phone service, yeah.
By the market.
Yeah. You get phone service all over the lake.
Okay. So as let me ask you, you were asked a little bit about the Dr. Phil show, so I am going to ask you about that. Didn't the defendant call you and beg you to go on that show for him?
No,
Do you recall talking to Tanya Goldbright on March 6th of 2013 and saying that he begged you to go on the show?
no, he never begged me to go on the show.
Would it refresh your memory to see the report or no?
Yeah, you can show me the report, 'cause
I'm only going to show it to you if it would refresh your memory. Do you think it would?
no, because I've never said that.
Okay. And did you tell Investigator Goldbright as well that it was Mark that gave the show your number?
That could be true.
Okay. And you felt at that time that you were misled by the show and comments were taken out of context by the show as well?
I do,
Okay.
real strongly.
Right. So the show took your comments out of context when you said that you didn't think Mark was the last one to see Dylan.
They told me to say that.
So they told you what to say then.
Yes, and I had, my daughter and my aunt were there also. We were on the
Objection, Your Honor.
phone.
I was about to jump in. I don't understand the relevance to this on either side. I mean,
I can move on.
Move to strike.
move on then, please.
So, sure. I think the answer's on the record, right? I don't have any more questions. I just wanted to know the answer to that question.
Yeah, but I don't understand why. I mean, your
Okay.
case is over with. I don't think anybody's going to show any more of that show, and I think
I don't want to show it. I agree, Judge. I don't want to show it.
so. From both sides, anything about the Dr. Phil show? I almost said Phil Donahue. I guess that shows how old I am. Anything about the Dr. Phil show? You just except what was played earlier. Anything you say about the Dr. Phil show, please ignore. Go ahead.
So also, it's your testimony today, too, that on March 7th of 2013, your words weren't accurately captured then either.
Right.
And it's also even back to November 20th of 2012, you were very clear those words weren't captured accurately, that you were absolutely certain you saw Dylan, right?
Yeah, I never said that.
So on all these different occasions, it's incorrect.
Right.
But let me just ask you about your memory. Even as you sit here right now, are you more than 50 or 60% sure that that could have been done?
No.
And could have it just as easily been Morgan Crawford based on what you saw that day?
Yeah, but I do know it was two boys,
Okay. I understand that.
and there wasn't a girl there.
I understand. That's all I have for you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Moran?
Yes, please. And may I put the photograph of Jacqueline back up? Ms. Lee?
Yeah.
I see in these reports descriptions of hoodies. Is it your testimony that the hoodies were up, or just that they were wearing sweatshirts with hoods?
I think they had their hoodies on, but I can't remember.
Would it refresh your recollection to take a look at several different reports describing it?
Well, if it's in the report and I said that it had it up, they had their hoodies up, then they probably did.
It does not say that they had them up.
Objection, Judge.
Oh, no.
You know, Mr. Moran, anything we talked about at the bench about,
And in particular, because this is redirect, and there is a report that says it, and Mr. Moran's over here testifying.
please don't give information like that. I don't even know, again, I don't even know how to control you at this point because of the way this whole conversation and direct has gone. So, do you remember, would looking at the report refresh your memory as to whether the hoods were up or not? Ms. Lee?
Yes.
All right, you can approach with the report.
Um, okay. Okay.
So does that refresh your recollection about what you described with respect to hoodies?
Yes.
And did you,
That they wore them.
and was your description back then, which was closer in time, that the hoods were up?
I don't remember.
Did looking at these reports refresh your recollection?
No.
Judge.
Oh, well,
No.
Then we're done with it. We're done
Thank
with this, okay? Just, do you have any other redirect?
When you look at this child in the photograph behind you,
Uh-huh.
are you 100% certain that that girl is not one of the children you saw?
Yes.
And if you said that that was the child you saw to Investigator Goldbright, was that the day that you were trying to take it back, or, I'm sorry, was that the day you were trying to back away?
Sustained. You've gone over this, that she said whatever Investigator Goldbright wanted to hear so she could be done with it. That's what she said. So, and that,
Okay.
we're done, okay?
She can be released from,
Well, not yet. Do we have any questions from the jury? So I'm gonna ask the questions, Ms. Lee.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry.
Approximately what time would you be delivering to the Vallecito area around November 18th, 19th, 20th of 2012?
On that date, I would have been up there probably about 10 o'clock in the morning and probably, till about 2:30.
Okay. Think about 2:30, late November of 2012?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you remember roughly how many times that, you saw, Dylan in 2012?
No, I don't.
Do you know if it was more than one time or not?
No.
Okay. And just kind of narrowing this in, about what time would you get, when you're doing that route in November of 2012, would you get to, Mark's house?
Probably like, I would say about anywhere between 1 and 1:30.
Okay. Any follow-up, Mr. Mayor?
is there some variability with that?
Well, County Road 500 is what I would travel one of the last, parts of Vallecito, and then come down the lake, go down the lake, and then go down 501.
Okay. So your confidence level about these times is pretty high, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything?
briefly. So Ms. Lee, you had previously testified it was around 1:30, close to 2, that you saw these two boys.
Yeah.
Okay. And then would you have gone back up in that direction, up towards Mark's house or anything?
No.
Okay.
But it would only take me about 10 to 15 minutes to get from Mark's house to, like, the store.
I see. And throughout the day, you'd also been up to Mark's house at some point for your mail route?
No, I only go one time.
When was that?
That day, you mean?
Yeah.
It was probably about the same time, about between 1 and 1:30.
Okay. You would have went up to Mark's house.
Yeah, went to his box. Yeah.
And did you see Dylan walking on the road around that time?
No, but that's the day I saw the two boys walking in front of them.
Right. Let me ask a better question. The only time you saw the two boys walk in front of you was down by the market.
Right.
And when you went up to Mark's house back down, no point in the day did you see Dylan anywhere else out and about?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Get you be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank
Appreciate
you.
it. All right, we'll take our afternoon recess, take 15 minutes, and please don't talk about the case with each other while you're on recess. Everybody rise for the jury?